Hey guys, Jim here, and it's time to finally sit down and do the promised in-depth look at the Medford knife and tool Praetorian T. Now, I'd given a pretty long look, about a 20-minute look into it when I first received it, but I did want to kind of come back to it, give a more in-depth review of the knife itself, instead of just, hopping up and down in my excitement having just received it when I made the other video. And also give you kind of I don't really want to call it a long-term look back because I've only had it for a short amount of time, but, the experiences that I've had with it, how it's broken in, and what you could expect buying, I guess, any similar knife from Medford. So, again, very quick on the backstory for those that did not see the original video. This was a complete one-off built by Greg Medford himself. And what they wanted to do was they were, promoting their business, and they wanted to get more traffic over to their Facebook site. So they wanted to get more likes on their Facebook page and get more awareness out there because they're putting a lot more content on there now. They're linking over and doing many more videos on their YouTube channel, which I highly suggest you go subscribe to Greg Medford's YouTube channel. Really good and really informative stuff there. So he says, you know what, he goes, we're going to do a contest. It's more or less a popularity contest when he got down to it. I initially entered it believing it was a photo contest because that's what they called it. So I'm seeing all these people that just put up pictures of, their happy smiley faces or something like that. And I put up a photo that I had taken of a knife, a nice one of my beauty shots. And I'm thinking, oh, I got this in the bag, man. This will be easy. And then I find out it was actually more or less a popularity contest. Basically, it was get all of the friends that you can to go vote for your picture. Doesn't matter if the picture is good or not, but have your friends come over, vote for your picture, and then like the Medford Knife and Tool Facebook page. I'm like, well, okay, well, we'll see how that works. And I'm very fortunate with what I do for a living that I have a lot of people that friended me on Facebook, and I have my regular page, my fan page, and then my networks page. So I just kind of put a call out to everybody and said, hey, do me a favor, vote for me. I really want to win this knife. There's no way to buy it. It's a complete one-off, yada, yada, yada. And during that week that the contest was running, or that I was actively entered in it, I went ahead and ordered a Praetorian tie, because Greg offered up a special version of it, and I said, oh, I got to have it. You're only going to make 10 of them. Got to have it. And so I paid for mine. And lo and behold, come April 1st, which I thought was going to be funny because it was April Fool's Day. And it's now, how long has it taken me to do this? It is, what? It's the 6th. Yeah, it's the 6th of May, so I apologize. But then he announced my name, and I couldn't believe it. So now, technically I'm the owner of two Praetorians. But this one is very, very special. And when you get into any of the Praetorians, you're going to get into a very big, beefy, overbuilt kind of knife. You've got about a 3 3/4 inch blade here. Greg prefers to use D2 steel. So he's using D2 tool steel on all of the knives. With a compound grind. You have a very nice hollow grind here. There's also a great video he put on his channel about how he grinds this, and it shows him grinding it on the initial grind anyway. Very, very cool. So your main grind is a hollow grind, and then flat grind for the nose. And it's kind of an advanced, kind of an Americanized Tanto style, which I really dig. You guys know that I'm very much more so into Tantos than anything else. So I really love that look. Very deep groove here. I guess you could call it a fuller groove. And the intent for that is for you to use your thumb. Now you'll notice mine, I transitioned my thumb from there over to the blade stop. And I kind of use it as a thumb stud. Here's why. And this is just, I don't know if I'm the only one that has this issue, but holding the knife normally with a normal grip, I run out of room. I can't manipulate that any further. And when the knife's completely open, you see my thumb actually doesn't drop in there anymore. My thumb isn't that long, and I have a very average sized hand. I would have to be choked up on it like this, and obviously I'm not going to deploy my knife like that. I don't have proper control over my knife with only having 3 fingers on there. So for me, I can usually start it there and then bring it out with that with the nubs. We'll call them the nubs. The other great way, it's because of the weight of the blade. I apologize, I'm going out of frame. I don't have a lot of room to work with here. You've got such a big, heavy blade. The detent is perfect on this. It's enough to keep the blade in the frame, but when you whip your wrist the right way, you can fling the blade right out, and it really works very, very well. Now, when I first got this, it was very stiff and very difficult to operate, and I'll give you a great example of that, very much like my Crusader Forge. Now, you guys know I had bought this knife the day before this one actually arrived in my house. So they are relatively the same age. They've been played with the same amount. It's obviously been laying on that side too much. There's a lot of oil. And that's from the factory. That's not me adding oil. So don't say, oh, Jim, you're over oiling your knives. I didn't do shit. Back off. So anyway, this is how the Medford opened when I first got it. You can't even think about flipping that. And you'll see this hasn't broken in hardly at all. This, however, and again, I'm running out of room. Try not to hit my tripod back here. Very smooth, very, very easy. And what amazes me is that even though it's broken in so well, the lockup is in the exact same place. Has not moved. And that shows you how well built these knives really are, the tolerances that they're made to. It's made to wear in, the parts are made to start, wearing in together and gelling, but not screwing up anything else in the process. I love this knife. I do in every way. It's got a great feel to it. If you're wondering what the main differences are between this and a standard Praetorian tie, and what makes this so different is the slim nature of this. I call it the concealed carry version. And obviously, Greg can't do that because he'd be getting a phone call from Mick Strider going, what the fuck you doing? So he probably can't use that name. I want to give you some comparisons in size to some other overbuilt knives. You guys know this one, the Direware Solo V2. Put that right next to it. I'll put up next to the Crusader. Put that right over there. Right over there. I just turned into Chingy all of a sudden. And then Sniper Blade Works DH. And you'll see that it's actually slimmer than all of them by a good margin. And the Sniper is really the closest in its slim nature to that knife. But when you compare it to the knives that are more often going to be the comparison, very, very big difference. Now you'll see in other dimensions, very, very comparable. So let's get that out of the way. Don't need any more distractions. I get distracted easily enough as it is. Now what I like about that is it's super slim in the pocket. It's easy to carry. And it's super slim in the hand. So just kind of going for that, that forward grip like that, just kind of holding it like a tomahawk there. You see how it fits, and you see how much room I have left over in my hand that I wouldn't have with something else. See how much bulkier that is. So as far as daily concealed carry goes, this is fantastic. And that's exactly what I'm using it for, and that's kind of where I want to go from here comment-wise before I go to the rest of the knife. I've seen some people talking about Medford Praetorians, their edges, the type of profile they use on their edge, and saying that the blades are too thick for EDC tasks like cutting paracord and cutting paper and things like that. And it's actually funny because I was just kind of chatting back and forth with Greg the other night about another Praetorian that I want to have made up. And during the course of the conversation, I was talking about cutting paper. He says, you know what, dude? Cutting paper is asinine. That's not the exact words he used. I'm not going to use the words that he used. He goes, it's fucking stupid. He goes, it proves nothing. He goes, I designed these knives to puncture through somebody's skull or into their chest, not to cut ribbons of paper. And you know what? I think that put it in perspective for me, because what I was doing, part of what I was discussing with him was how I wanted my profile. because I have different needs than most people. I need a super paper thin, kind of like a garlic slicing edge on my main grind. But the problem I run into is I bend the tips of a lot of my blades, because when I'm using my knife on the show and I'm rubbing it across sapphire crystals and Sapphitech crystals to show the scratch resistance of the watch crystal, that material ranks a 9 on the Mohs scale of hardness. It's a lot harder than any steel that you're going to be using, except for maybe 3V. 3V probably wouldn't have too much of an issue. But it's bending a lot of the tips on my blades. I'm having to have them reprofiled. So I said, I want, paper slicing thin here, and I need a very fat, thick, chunky edge, or tip, I should say, on the front end of the blade. He's like, yeah, no problem. And here's what I would tell people. It's not going to help you for buying on the secondary market, but if you're ordering from Medford, and their books are open, you can order any knife from them right now. There is a wait. It's not a 2-year wait like Direware, or, 2-year wait like for Una or something like that. But, it's like 6 months, I think, if I'm not mistaken. That's not bad. He's got a big crew, working there now and doing some really amazing work. So it's not a huge wait. But when you're placing your order, let him know, or whomever is taking your order, let them know what your primary purpose is. Because these knives, aside from my pimped out version here, a standard Praetorian was made to go to war. It's made to be basically a combat knife that folds and fits in the pocket. Pure and simple. So it's not going to have a super paper thin edge, because that super paper thin edge isn't going to be good if you have to do any kind of chopping or any kind of really hard heavy duty with it. Me, I'm a regular guy. I'm not out there in the desert doing the things that the defenders of our nation are doing on a daily basis. I'm cutting straps. I'm cutting, cord. I'm cutting string, cardboard boxes, taped up boxes, breaking down stuff, things like that. Normal everyday tasks. So I need something that slices very, very fine. I don't need a chopper. I'm not going to ever take this knife out into the woods and chop friggin' wood with it. So he doesn't know that. And I think that's partially the fault of the consumer if you don't get precisely what it is that you want every single time. And I have that discussion with every knife maker. This is what I'm using my knife for. Can I please have this kind of edge? Yeah, sure, no problem. Or, I always do it that way, so it's not a big deal. For somebody like Medford, I would make that request. And I would do the same thing with most of these guys that are building these overbuilt tanks, because they don't know what your needs are. They're having to kind of satisfy the masses. All right, let's get to the rest of the knife. So there is the proprietary pivot screw. So yes, I will never be able to open up my knife. I don't think I'm ever going to need to. I mean, this thing broke in so perfectly, I got no issues. And unlike a lot of other knives I've had this issue with recently, this pivot has not come loose at all. I've had some that even having to Loctite them down and everything, and they're still trying to break loose. This one, not a single issue. The hardware, he did something really cool here. They actually did either a sandblasting or a bead blasting, and then did the heat treating. So it's a little bit more low-key than the bright, crazy, rainbowish colors that comes out of the titanium. Come around here to the back side, and you have the D2 NP3 finished glass breaker. Let me close this so I have some more room. And that is wicked as hell, isn't it? I mean, seriously, I've seen a lot of glass breakers. That's about as wicked as it gets. Now, I don't ever anticipate any time where I'm going to have to bust open a window. At least I hope not. If it gets to that point, I'm really in some danger. But I can certainly look at this as being a non-lethal method of defense. As you guys know, I usually call that the attitude adjuster, because that is going to adjust somebody's shitty attitude real quick. Hit any of the major pressure points, shove it into their temple, into the side of their neck, under their armpit. You push that in there, and trust me, they're going to walk wherever you guide them. They're going to leave you alone for certain. So that's really cool. And it really needs it because of how slim the titanium is. This really did become quite blade heavy. So to help balance it out, you've got the glass breaker. And that's why the glass breaker isn't standard equipment on the Praetorian tie, that really thick monster, but it is on the Praetorian A's and Praetorian G's, which are this slim profile. Now, what really makes this one special, besides the fact that it's tremendously slimmer than a standard titanium Praetorian, is the finish work. This was all done by Greg, all the heat treating and everything else. And what they did, if it hasn't jumped out to you yet, because you might have looked at the blade and went, what is going on with that funky pattern in there that I don't see on the other side of that black blade? This is what it is. It's actually the Medford knife and tool logo shadowed in to the frame and into the blade. It just comes together perfectly. And you know what? That's friggin' genius. It really came out fantastic. Love the colors. I'm no stranger to heat-treated colors. You guys have seen my other knives I've had done. You know, Chris Martin pimped out my Chris Reeve Undamzan. Did a fantastic job. I think this is definitely more subtle than I have my Chris Martin Phantom Steelworks PF1. Mokutai on the clip, but the rest of it is titanium. It's also more subtle than that. You saw the Direware that has the bronzed, anodized titanium. And then my Curtis F3. I had Dave do a little heat treat here. He actually blowtorched this, which was really cool. So he blowtorched my hardware and brought it out bronze that way. So there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. This definitely gets attention. The other one that I have on order is one of 10 that Greg decided to go ahead and make in the S35 VN. I'm very excited about that. And I just did a regular bronze anodized on the handles, NP3 finish on the blade, and that's it. Because that I plan to be my everyday hardcore carry knife. I probably am going to retire half of my knives when that comes in after the experiences I've had with this. And I'm going to retire this one almost permanently. This will come out for special occasions to kind of show off and, you know, when you're talking with your knife buddies or whatever, because, hey, it's friggin' beautiful. Greg's never built anything like this. It's a true one-off, signed documentation to prove that. So, you know what? I really don't want to damage it all that much. So all in all, I think the knife is just about as perfect as you could expect. Some people ask, is it really worth the money? And again, you can't put a price on this one because he doesn't really technically make these. But if you get into just looking at the Praetorian A or G, which is aluminum or G10, versus the Praetorian tie, now your price essentially doubles. You're paying, $550 and $650 for the G10s and the aluminums. And then you jump to $1,200 when you get into the titaniums. Now, you really should check out Greg's YouTube channel. There was a video that he did to help people understand why there is such a massive price jump. I mean, you have the obvious. You have the fact that, well, titanium costs more than G10. But then you have the costs that go into manufacturing that only apply to the titanium. Such as these 4 grooves that are machined into the titanium. He was talking about the bits that they use for that. And I believe, I don't know, let's say they were $150 a piece. And there were only so many knives that they could make with that before the bit became either unusable or broke. So let's say it was 10 knives. It's a $150 bit across 10 knives. You're absorbing a big production cost into the assembly, into the manufacture of these knives. So there probably is a lot more that goes into it that we as the consumer are not privy to. You know what? If it's not worth it to you, don't buy it. Buy the A, buy the G. But I'm going to tell you right now, you would do yourself a great disservice if you did not buy at some point a Medford Praetorian. I'm still madly in love with it. I love it as much as the day I received it. It has been carried a lot. It has been used. It is a very, very, very impressive knife. If I had to make one note to Greg, if he ever decided to make these thinner versions into production knives, I would put an over travel on this. You need an over travel stop on this. This got so thin that somebody with my very normal thumb, my very normal strength, feels like I'm bowing it out too much. And I don't have the room in here like Greg does, because, when Greg does it, you see him do this, and he folds it up with two hands, and that is the most secure way to keep, your hand on your knife. But I'm always going to be doing this. And if I were under any kind of great stress for some reason, a lot of adrenaline pumping, I could see something bad happening with somebody that had greater hand strength. But that is the single one and only thing that I could say that isn't just flawless. Love the knife. It's a great carry. It's something I think everybody should experience at least once. So check out Medford's website, medfordknife.com, or check out their YouTube channel, check out their Facebook, whatever. Start up a conversation with Greg, get an order in, and understand when you hold this why he has the passion that he does, that he exudes in those videos. Some people think he's insane, and I think they might be right, but I think he's got a reason to be insane. So anyway, Greg, thank you very much. To my subscribers, thank you very much. To all my friends that voted for me and helped me get this, thank you as well. I love you all. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. Thanks.